Ukrainian filmmaker Oleg Sentsov and activist Sasha Kolchenko were both detained in Crimea on May 10, 2014. They were accused of plotting terrorist acts, taken to Russia, and convicted. Kolchenko was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and Sentsov, 20. Two other Ukrainians, Gennadiy Afanasiev and Oleksiy Chirniy, were arrested with them. Afanasiev was released in a 2016 prisoner exchange, and Chirniy is still in a penal colony in Magadan. Sentsov and Kolchenko were first held in a detention center in Moscow, then tried in Rostov-on-Don, transported to the Urals, and then to the Russian Arctic. Between the two of them, they have covered almost 20,000 kilometers, or half the distance around the Earth. Their entire journey has been within Russia, or actually, within its prison system. We traveled to the key sites along their transport route, where the Ukrainian consuls were denied access and where lawyers today face difficulties getting in, to find out in what conditions they are being held and who is responsible for their fate. When was the last time you saw Oleg?
I saw him on May 9th. No, they took him away on the 10th, so it was the 12th when they brought him by the apartment in handcuffs. That's the last time I saw him.
That was how many years ago?
In 2014. Soon it will be 4 years.
And then you traveled to Rostov?
I went to Rostov when he was being held there, so I only saw him behind glass.
This is when?
It was when they held the trial. After the trial, I can't figure out when exactly, in summer 2015, Natasha met me and I saw him.
Oleg Sentsov was accused of organizing and leading a terrorist group and sentenced to 20 years in prison. Sasha Kolchenko was given 10 years for allegedly participating in it. According to the Russian investigators, the group was planning to blow up the Lenin Monument, an eternal flame memorial in Simferopol. It was also said to have ties with the right sector, which in Russia, in connection with this case, was declared an extremist organization. The case essentially rests on the testimony of two others involved, Gennadiy Afanasiev and Oleksiy Chirniy. Later, it will come to light that they were tortured, as was Sentsov, who was pressed to inform against the leaders of the Euromaidan protests.
Меня начали избивать руками, ногами, дубинками, прочими средствами. Когда я продолжал отказываться, меня начали применять удушение, средства, когда душат пакетом до того, как теряешь сознание. Я это много раз видел в кино, ваша честь. Никогда не понимал, как люди на этом ломаются. Это очень страшная штука. Они раздели меня на ногах и угрожали изнасиловать. Дубинкой, прочими средствами в разной извращенной форме.
All that was found in Sentsov's apartment was money for his new film, old tickets to Kiev, and his film collection, which included The Ordinary Fascism and The Third Reich in Colour. The investigators took this as evidence of the director's Nazi views. Sasha Kolchenko admitted to throwing a flammable mixture at the door of the Russian Unity office in Simferopol. This was the makeshift headquarters of the Crimean self-defense operation at the time of the peninsula's annexation. People who spoke out against Russia's actions or simply displayed Ukrainian symbols were brought here for preliminary questioning. The fire was put out by security guards. Damage to the office door amounted to about 30,000 rubles, or $525. The act of arson was qualified as terrorism. Sasha, a proclaimed anarchist, called his alleged ties to the Right Sector Party absurd.
Sasha was detained on May 16th in Simferopol city center. He was walking down the street with his friends and was arrested by Russian FSB agents. The same day, our home was searched. First, they charged him with civil disorder, but then it snowballed and the charge became terrorism. When Sasha was detained, first they took him to the precinct, and there they got the search order. And together with Sasha, they came to our home. They overturned everything in the apartment, and of course, they didn't find anything. They confiscated our computers and telephones, and took Sasha. From that moment, I didn't see him again for a year and a half. I saw him only in court. He spent a week in a Simferopol detention center, and then they sent him to Moscow. Of course, we never thought it would end like this. The boys themselves didn't expect it.
When Sasha was detained, were you able to talk to him while he was home?
Yes, I could. But I was trying to follow the agents who were performing the search. I knew there was nothing incriminating in the apartment for them to find, but I was very afraid they might plant something. So I was keeping watch for that.
Sasha's mother, sister, and other relatives are still in Crimea. Many of his friends left and now live in Kyiv and Lviv. Sentsov's closest family, his 2 children and mother, live in Crimea.
He took them everywhere. He took them to the mountains, to the seaside. He was always with them, with the 2 of them. With his daughter Alina, they are still, if he calls or writes, he asks her what books she is reading. They discuss all those things, even to this very day, and she really listens to him. Her character is exactly like Oleg's. When they suggested in school, people were asking her a lot of questions about Oleg. And then her teacher came up and said, "Alina, I see this is hard for you. You just need to change schools." Grandma, at first, I listened and listened. I really wanted to run away from there. And then I thought, when she suggested changing schools, she turned to her teacher and said, "I've been going, I go, and I will keep going to this school. If you don't like it, then leave." She was in the 1st grade then. She just turned and walked away. Now, his son Vladik, it was extremely hard for Vladik because he didn't call him Papa, but Oleg was everything to him, and suddenly he was gone. Vladik has huge eyes, and he looks at me with those huge eyes of his. Where is Oleg? Where did he go? Where? Is it my fault that he left?
Where are we, Natalia?
We're at the railway station in Kyiv, waiting for a train. We're going to Moscow. From there to Salikhard, and then to Labetnangi. That's where the colony where Oleg is being held is.
Поїзд знаходиться на 12-й колії. На поїзда 19 годин.
This is Natalia, Oleg's cousin. The last 4 years of her life have mostly been a fight for Oleg Sentsov and other political prisoners' freedom. Natalia says they weren't friends with Oleg when they were children. The 4-year age difference was more apparent then. They grew closer as they became adults. Oleg would visit Natalia in Moscow, where she lived. At that time, she was involved in documentary filmmaking, while Oleg was working on one of his first short films called A Perfect Day for Banana Fish. A year and a half ago, Natalia moved to Ukraine. Now we're going to Moscow together, and after that to the town of Lobotnangy, located in the Russian Arctic zone. At the end of winter 2018, Oleg was transferred to a colony there.
Здравствуйте. Таможенный контроль. Декларацию таможенной вы не заполняли?
Нет, декларации нет.
Обязательному письменному декларированию подлежит оружие, всякое, боеприпасы, наркотические вещества, включая сильнодействующие лекарства, предметы старинного искусства, денежная наличность, более эквивалента $10 000 США, коммерческие партии товаров. Бланки декларации не надо? Вопрос понятно? Да. Багаж, пожалуйста, предоставьте.
Доброе утро.
Доброе.
Как спали?
Да,
билетики вам нужны?
Да. Да.
Вам билетики, ни слов, что?
Спасибо.
Чай, кофе будете еще?
Да.
How long has it been since your last time in Moscow?
I haven't been to Moscow or Russia for a year and a half since my emigration. I can't say that I miss it a lot. Maybe I just miss my friends there. Well, let's see how much Moscow has changed during this year and a half.
We make a short stop in Moscow. This is where the Lefortovo prison is, the same prison Sentsov and Kolchenko were held in before the trial. In Moscow, Natalia wants to see 2 people who directly take part in helping Sentsov. Sentsov himself has been refusing meetings. Maintaining contact with him has gotten increasingly difficult.
Well, we talked over the phone. I called him. I had to order the phone line. But I think it was about a month ago. But you can't really call it communication. He's in a very tough psychological condition now. He's been locked up in jail, but it's like he's also locked up inside himself. It looks to me he just doesn't want to be exposed to the outside world.
4 years have passed. It's not funny at all. What will he look like when he comes out?
4 years may be okay for some people, but I can see that he's struggling. When a person doesn't want to see anyone, that's when it's bad.
For almost a year, Sentsov and Kolchenko were held in Moscow's Lefortovo prison. During several court hearings, which all ended in both men's pre-trial detention terms being extended, Sentsov kept saying that he didn't consider himself guilty and all the testimonies against him were given under torture. He also reiterated that as a Ukrainian citizen, he was not allowed to see a consul. According to Sentsov, some people also suggested he considers suicide.
Я хочу заявить, что я не планирую мыть окно в своей камере в Лефортово и курить на 6-м этаже Следственного комитета и совершать любые другие действия суицидального характера, потому что угрозы по этому поводу мне поступали. Также хочу заявить решительный протест против попыток лишения гражданства Украины. Так, я был и есть гражданином Украины, остаюсь. Я не признаю аннексии Крыма и военного захвата Крыма Российской Федерации. И любые договора, которые заключает ныне нелегитимное правительство Крыма с Российской Федерацией, считаю недействительными. Я не крепостной, мне нельзя передать вместе с землей гражданство.
So he was taken in this darkest cell on the top floor of the Lefortovo prison. There was no daylight, and whenever we came to visit him, he didn't say a word. Once we came and Oleg was really agitated. He always came to the cell accompanied by the prison guards. And he said, "Look, how long should I spend in this cell?" It's a rat hole. I'm losing my eyesight here. If you don't transfer me, I'll complain. And they transferred him. He also said one brilliant thing. I didn't complain for so long, because I didn't want another person to be put here instead of me. But I can't stand this anymore, because I'm worried about my eyesight.
Ну, я не боюсь уже этих угроз, намеков, как я уже говорил. И этот срок 20 лет, мне не страшно, потому что я знаю, что эпоха отправления кровавых карликов в вашей стране закончится раньше.
He's the only one who attacked Vladimir Putin publicly from his cell.
Calling him a blood-shedding dwarf?
Yeah.
This is Oleg Sentsov's lawyer, Dmitry Dinzer. He visits Sentsov, but very occasionally. The distance between Moscow and Labutnangi is more than 4,000 kilometers. The conditions in his new Arctic penal colony are quite different to those in the previous colony in Yakutsk. His transfer to Labutnangi came out of the blue. Dinzy believes it happened because of the rallies in Sentsov's support in Yakutsk.
Life is pretty hard there. He was all settled in Yakutia, and Labutnangi is much stricter. He was immediately offered a good job position, working at a farm and snug movie studio, and creating some kind of entertainment program. But he said he would not take it because he didn't want to cooperate with prison guards. He became rougher, that's for sure. He improved his knowledge of prison life. Well, you learn quickly when you are in Siberia, in the north. It's not like in central Russia. There are completely different prisoners there, different people. We couldn't even speak properly because of the glass. We had to talk over the phone, but we did not talk over the phone. And they put their phone headsets in such a way so that they could listen and record us if needed. That is, someone actually listened to all of our conversations.
This is Rostov, summer 2015. The southern city from which so-called Russian volunteers were sent to the Donbass will listen to the Sentsov-Kolchenko case for nearly a month. During the proceedings, city life would go on as usual. Nothing sensational was expected from the trial. That is, until Gennadiy Afanasiev took the stand. His previous confessions had aired on Russian television. He claimed that Sentsov was the organizer of a terrorist group. In court, to everyone's surprise, he declared that this testimony had been given under pressure. Soon after, a lawyer managed to learn the details of how and why Afanasiev testified against Sentsov and Kolchenko.
They put a gas mask on him and began to squeeze the tube. As he began to breathe in, they injected him with some kind of liquid. He immediately began vomiting right into the gas mask and choking on the vomit. They also tortured him with electric shocks. They attached electrodes to him, including his genitals, and increased the voltage. He was forced to comply. He could not withstand the torture.
However, this had no effect on the court ruling.
По совокупности преступлений путем частичного сложения назначенных наказаний в виде лишения свободы на срок 20 лет исправительной колонии строгого режима. Kolchenko окончательно назначено наказание по совокупности преступлений путем частичного сложения назначенных наказаний в виде лишения свободы на срок 10 лет исправительной колонии строгого режима.
Вот стоят, например, ваши режима, да, они тоже не глупые парни, они все знают, как оно есть, понимаете, они продолжают врать, продолжают делать свою работу, например, находя без всякого оправдания, наверняка они себя оправдывают, там надо кормить детей, надо что-то делать. А зачем растить новое поколение рабов, ребята?
The Chelyabinsk Department of the Penitentiary Service is considered to be one of the most severe and dedicated. It's understood that they send people like Sasha here. They are just smoking Oleg. He wasn't sent there because of the harsh leadership, but because of the harsh climate. They decided to bully him in this way. They just have to keep those who pose a threat to them in the hands of their devotees there.
Погляди, погляди на небосвод, как сияет он безоблачно и чисто. Отчего, отчего мне так светло от того, что ты идешь по переулку? Отчего мне так светло от того, что ты идешь по переулку?
Sasha does not complain about how he is treated, and he has normal relationships in the penal colony. We ask, what do they call you in there? He says, Ukraine. I say, why so? What do they think of it all, about what you did? And he describes how he told them about throwing a Molotov cocktail through the window of the United Russia office, and they replied, why not directly inside the Kremlin? So they make these kind of jokes.
Съемка в колонии номер 6 в комнате для приема пищи отряда номер 4, произведена членом ОНК Чкюром Николаем Алексеевичем в присутствии членов ОНК Чкюр Татьяны Михайловны.
Tatyana and Nikolai Shur have been human rights activists in Chelyabinsk for many years. Sasha Kolchenko is at a penal colony in Kopeysk, a suburb of Chelyabinsk. Until recently, Tatyana and Nikolai were members of the local public monitoring committee and were able to enter the prison and meet with the prisoners without any restrictions. They visited Kolchenko a few times, and they also met Oleg Sentsov in the local pre-trial detention facility when he was transferred to Yakutsk. However, they were not allowed to join the last committee. Now Sasha can only be contacted via his lawyer. It seems like Tatyana and Nikolai know everything about Russian prisons. In the 1990s, as an eco-activist, Nikolai himself ended up behind bars on fabricated charges. He was later granted amnesty, but human rights activism became both his and his wife's life work. They now deliver packages, letters, and they know a lot about Kolchenko's life in prison.
These articles. Here, for example, he lives alongside more than 90 other people in his cohort. There are a lot of prisoners under Article 228, that is, illegal trafficking, storage, consumption, sale of drugs. Sasha's writing about this in his letter. Article 105, premeditated murder. 111, Part 4, causing serious bodily injury resulting in death. 162, robbery. 139, rape. 132, violent sexual acts. There is also terrorism, I know for sure. Before the New Year, he washed his jacket, but didn't attach his name badge to the spare one. This was deemed a breach of the uniform rule, despite no one ever caring about this before. They made a big deal about it when Sasha was put in prison on March 7. So he served 13 days because he passed through some regime corridor without security. I still don't understand what regime corridor this could have been. Either from one detachment to another or to the library. He's not supposed to go alone. He shouldn't go without security. But everyone walks without security there.
Не поздоровался с сотрудником и отправили в ШИЗО за употребление жаргонных выражений. Жаргонных? Там в постановлении значится, что я употребил слова барак и кича, хотя второго не употреблял в беседе.
То есть за слово барак тебя отправили в ШИЗО?
А с ним же еще проблема другая.
He has another problem as well.
Он же русский.
He's considered a Russian citizen according to Russia. He's not a Ukrainian, so they have not once let a consul in to see him because he's a Russian citizen. Although Sasha never took Russian citizenship, and there were a lot of provocations. And there are now, they say to him, yes, we agree, you're a cool guy, everything's fine, right? What kind of Russian are you? Write a renunciation of citizenship. But we warned him, Sasha, don't even think about writing a renunciation of Russian citizenship. You don't have it. If you write a statement saying, I ask to be deprived of Russian citizenship, you're admitting that you are a citizen of Russia. They won't talk with you at all. And he doesn't have a Russian passport. It was discharged to him. But in order for him to have one, he would have had to receive it and sign it, which he never did. And rightly so. In 2014, when Crimea became ours, they gave you 3 months when you had to say that you did not want to be a citizen. And you did not say it. Therefore, automatically, everyone who did not say so are now considered citizens of Russia. And the fact that he was in prison at that time, that's nothing? Sasha managed to choose the right people to interact with, the ones that it's okay to interact with.
These images are from the Kapeysk penal colony, where Sasha is being held. The canteen, one of the workshops, and the living area. According to the human rights activists, up until 2012, this was one of the worst penal colonies in Russia.
This penal colony is interesting. In 2012, the inmates held a peaceful protest because of the conditions here. However, that's not what's interesting, but more what the protest was about. In different prisons, there are always riots, shattered glass, blood, screams, fights, death, arsons, breaking prison assets and death. But there was none of that here. It was a peaceful protest, but that's not what's interesting. The interesting thing is why it was held.
When I arrived at colony number 6, it was considered the bloodiest one. All the cruelest tortures happened there mostly. I can describe these torture methods to you. A lot of people did not believe me. Even the people inside, those with whom I was serving my sentence, did not believe that such things could be done to me. Because they thought that it was impossible that someone could be tied to the bars and hang there for 18 hours a day. It's impossible.
Решетки в подвешенном состоянии по 18 часов в сутки. Невозможно.
And that's with no food, no water, absolutely nothing. To compensate for no food or water, they sprayed me with pepper spray. In between, they would kick my balls and beat me. So a person just hangs there like a sack. And they'll do whatever they want to you, crucify you. Then, when they get tired, they spray you with gas and leave. And that's all with an ear flap hat tied around your ears. Some people had a bucket, but I somehow missed out on the bucket. I had the hat. The hat has 2 car alarms built into it. When you put the hat on, it's all taped up in case, God forbid, nothing falls off. They also tape your head to the bars so that it's impossible for you to move. And they turn the alarm on, spray some gas, and that's when the disco starts. And it's like that for 18 hours.
People come to the penal colony in groups. The groups were beaten immediately. The groups arrived by car. They unloaded everyone and started to beat them. Just beat them. It was all-out torture. They break you saying that you have to pay immediately. And they tell them, if you want to be okay in here, you have to pay. And they reply, why that I have to pay? Oh, you don't want to pay? And they just start torturing you. It was all out, indiscriminate torture.
They stripped us until we were naked. They tied us to bars. Our arms and legs were tied. They put this rag on your head that looked like a helmet with ear and face holes cut out.
A rag or a hat?
It was something that resembled a hat. It was taped up, some kind of bucket that was placed over the head, which had a special speaker built into it. It made the sound of a car alarm. The noise would change frequency over time. They just don't feed me. From the 10th to the 21st, they did not feed me. I asked them if I could meet you. I asked them to send a copy of my statement. They gave me a scolding and told me to go away.
In the winter of 2012, the prisoners of the Kopeisk penal colony held a protest. They refused to enter the building, climbed onto the roof with placards, and demanded an end to the torture and extortion.
There was an open day on the day that happened. A huge number of relatives came bringing bags full of food. They had already been given permits allowing them into the territory of the penal colony, but not into the actual zone where the prisoners are kept. There were many parts that they could walk through, but not in that zone. But then they were thrown out of the blue, without explanation. They closed it, and they did not explain anything. Then one of the jerks from the government gave the order to disperse the crowd, to beat them. So some OMON officers entered the crowd, and that's when the brutal beatings began. A pregnant woman was beaten and she miscarried. Another woman got her leg broken.
Chelyabinsk journalist and human rights activist Oksana Strufanova was at the prison that evening and was also beaten by OMON officers.
An OMON officer came up to me with a baton. I thought that he was going to beat me again. He said, "You're a human rights activist. Lie down here and shut up so that we won't beat you again."
She has been closely following the repercussions of the protest for almost 7 years. This is how long the court hearings have taken. As a result, 18 prisoners were accused of disruption, and almost all of them were given new jail sentences. Not a single person from the prison administration has faced charges for torture and extortion.
This bulletin for Federal Penitentiary Service operatives is for official use only. It includes the article How to Break Down Crime Lords. It includes some completely ridiculous things written by a veteran of Gulag's Federal Penitentiary Service. It tells you what to do step by step, bring him food made by a gay man, and so on. I think these kind of methods were taken from Gulag artifacts, secret methods for operatives within this system from the Soviet era. You can't just sit there and say, let's think of a torture method which involves a bucket. That's just horrific.
Ну, ужасы тут были, да. Ну, ребята рассказывали?
Да.
Ну, сейчас
много
ничего.
кто. Сейчас отлично.
Серьезно?
Да, нормально.
Ну, на самом деле...
Не бьют?
Нет, конечно.
Since 2012, things have really changed at the prison. Inmates are no longer tortured, and all issues are resolved with minimal intervention from the administration, Tatiana says.
Она стала тихой.
It's become quiet, calm. They brought in a new boss who just doesn't care about anything. All he wants is stability.
Now they've simply organized a Monte Carlo in all of the colonies. Everyone without exception is playing cards, backgammon, whatever you want, and all prisoners lose money. Those who refuse to pay are being hanged or something. This is justified later. As in, he just committed suicide because he couldn't pay. His guilt made him do it. So now some prisoners are making money, and they make it in such a way that you can't bust them. Nothing, no one. The employees don't know about anything. It wasn't there, they say. So the crime lords get their money under the guise of gambling, and everyone who tries to play keeps losing. Don't play with the card sharks. That's how they extort money. For having meetings with relatives and friends, for joining the detachment. It's all how it used to be, only there is no torture, nor beating, no murder now. Well, the administration doesn't murder, but the criminal lords do. So don't show off and you'll be fine.
We're travelling to the prison compound to see with our own eyes where Sasha has been held. Visits from people who are not close relatives are not allowed. We were also told that we can't shoot inside the prison, so we're only going to be able to look at the building. Sasha's mother came here twice. One time she had to practically beg for a meeting. The prison administration claimed her application had been lost. They managed to find it later, after looking for it. It's late March. Kopeisk is now covered in snow, and temperatures are below freezing, which is normal here.
The name Kopeisk comes from the word for mine. They mined coal here, but now all the mines are closed. No one needs this coal anymore. This city, like the whole of Urals, is a city of tight defense, a military city. The products here are entirely military. It was also in order to pull the wool over people's eyes. People had to somehow live in the Soviet Union. They had another plan for civilian production. The factory produced a ridiculous amount of ammunition, but still made refrigerators. The penal colonies are needed to make sure there is a workforce for the country's defense industry. Ural is the country's defense zone. Here, the defense industry is the main thing. In fact, you could say it is the only thing here. They need a lot of working hands. That's why there are so many camps here. Here, in front of where the control towers are, and where the wall painting of an eagle in flight is. This is the penal colony. This type of art is made by prisoners. You can tell straight away.
Это корпус, вот где вот он находится. На втором. Вот, ну, тот, который нижний. Ну, там 3 отряда, а в отряде около 90 человек. Ну, считайте, почти 300 человек там. 3 × 9, 227.
After about a month, a lawyer meets with Sasha. He asked us not to show his face. This makes it easier for him to do his job. He's just returning from a visit with Sasha and comes to talk to us immediately.
You've just been to see him. How is he getting on?
He always looks fine. He holds on and resists all the provocations. He looks appropriate. The one thing that he is scrawny and tall by nature. I asked him about food there. He says the diet is quite poor at the moment. The worst time is summer when they are given dry potatoes and stuff like that. Now the diet is more or less good.
Is he getting letters or parcels?
He is. He received a letter 2 days ago.
Did he say that he has arrhythmia?
We have a third colony here at the station where the Chelyabinsk pipe rolling plant is. It's referred to as the hospital. He was taken there, they did a full cardiogram, they examined him fully. And so, as a result of the cardiogram, they determined that he has a heart arrhythmia. I asked him if he was being treated for it. Here in the letter from the conversation, it says that there is no treatment for it.
When a person is independent and doesn't bow down to anybody, when a person has dignity, that kind of person can survive there. On one condition, as long as the administration does not order him killed.
Kolchenko, Sentsova.
The administration is sparing Kolchenko, Sentsov, and Klich too.
С другими не знаю. Этих администрация бережет. Потому что благодаря
Thanks to you, the media,
СМИ, которые говорят и делают информацию
who keep talking about them openly, they are alive.
Они живы.
For some reason, it seems to me that he was better off in Yakutsk. I laughed a lot when he called me in the spring and said, "Mom, guess what I've done?" "What?" "I've planted some radishes and I've sown some dill seeds." "Why can you do that in there?" I say. "In the flower beds. This is the second time we've planted radishes." To me, it suggests that it was somehow freer there, but I don't know, I can't say anything.
Oleg Sentsov was at the penal colony in Yakutsk for almost 1.5 years. In the summer of 2013, the punk protest band Pussy Riot held a protest in support of Sentsov. And in the fall of 2017, it was decided that Sentsov be transferred to Labadnangi, which is almost 8,000 kilometers from Yakutsk. It is Russia's Arctic region. The climate here is very cold and wet. Compared to the facility in Yakutsk, this penal colony has a much stricter regime and daily schedule.
I don't even know. The Urals are far away from me, but I don't have any idea how to get there.
What do you imagine Labadnangi to be like?
I can't even imagine what the town is like. It seems to me like it's a desolate steppe. Everything there is covered with snow, and there is a barrack in the middle. That's the only idea that I have. It's always frightening for me. How many times have I imagined this is my head? What there? Whether it's an industrial town. No, I don't even think that. To me, it is a bare steppe. Everything literally covered in snow, with the terrible frost and a barrack. That's it. And it's terrifying.
We're approaching the town of Salikhard. This is the capital of Yamal, the only town in the world located in the polar circle.
Уважаемые пассажиры, наш самолет произвел посадку в аэропорту города Салихард. Температура воздуха минус 18 градусов. Местное время 8 часов 15 минут.
Здесь очень холодно. It's very cold here, very windy, and very damp. It's terrible taking your hands out of your pockets.
You can only get from Salikhard to the White Bear prison colony in Labutnangi, where Sentsov is being held, by crossing the river Ob. At the moment, there is an ice road across it. They call the road Zimnik, but it's just ice. Once it gets warmer, it will go underwater. It's March now, and it's minus 20 outside.
Ну, когда 60, что делать, люди?
Тоже ходили, все говорили холодно, потом минус 30 стало, все говорят, о, как тепло, как хорошо. А сейчас все в 30 ходят, говорят, холодно. Минус 15 становится, говорят, тоже тепло.
За эту зиму не было минус 60?
Под полтинник было, ну там пару дней, вообще зима теплая. Так, у меня вот это 34 показывает.
Sentsov is refusing visitors. He says that it is easier for him this way. Despite going such a long way, Natalia knows that she won't be able to see him. But there are a few other important tasks which only Natalia can do. Meeting the only local lawyer who could potentially visit Sentsov, and someone who would be prepared to pass on packages to him. Finding people like this here in Yamal is very complicated.
Oleg is like Voldemort here. They don't talk about him, don't mention his name at all, at least on camera. And when they do talk about him, they do it in whispers and with the windows closed, and just in passing. Not because they don't understand or they don't know who he is, but because they're scared. They see what can happen to innocent people, they see where they lock them up, the sentence he was given. It needs to be understood that Yamal is actually Gazprom's area. Gazprom is a pro-government company, and therefore it's frightening. The cities are small, everything's out in the open, everything's exposed. People are afraid to lose their jobs, to lose their houses, which are provided by their workplaces, to lose their money. You can't survive here without money. You can't grow fruits here, let alone potatoes. That's what life in Yamal is like. This is how cars hibernate in Yamal. It will probably stay like this until the summer, which starts in June. Only then it might be able to drive somewhere. We are now on North Street. Who on earth came up with the idea to call it North Street? There's nothing but north in Yamal. That's not enough of an attraction to name the street where the colony is. I hope I'm not walking on someone's car. The climate is generally very humid here. It's hard to breathe. People here have chronic heart problems, mainly because of the climate. The lack of oxygen takes its toll.
Labetnangi is a Hunter name, so the translation from Hunter is seven larches, and we are well aware from Hunter people founded their settlement here. They worship idols. So we have real idols here, precisely the ones that were found by seven larches. That is, if the hunter came here and sacrificed a deer, they were mostly wild deer, sacred deer. They cut the deer's throat and then tied ribbons on the large trees. This tradition was survived to this day. We can't catch these people in any way. They came every year before April 7th. That is their national day, Vornak Hatla. They come to large trees to hang ribbons.
Let's move on from here. As far as I know, the worst camps weren't here.
Yes, I don't know how much you know. There now exists an association of museums of memory in Moscow. They set up a Gulag History Museum. These museums, which are linked to the Gulag theme, joined together at that. Talking to a few colleagues in Chukotka, Magadan, I realized that conditions there were significantly worse, of course. I don't know, maybe it all depended on people who were in charge of those buildings. Our people were so lucky because the head of our building, who was in charge of the workers, he also was a former prisoner. Therefore, he was well aware of how hard the work was. He treated them like people. From the memories of many people who served sentence here, they describe this Schneider guy as quite a nice person who always cared about their clothes. They always had a good food and he cared well of women. Therefore, the conditions here were a lot easier. Although, yes, there is a myth about road of bones, but it's just a myth. One of the former prisoners told us that there used to be a kind of punishment in the summer especially, where a person would be stripped naked and make a run into the tundra. They would then be left there for mosquitoes to bite them all over. There were punishments like this, but if you look at the statistics, the death rate wasn't as high as labor camps in Magadan, for example.
Are you telling me that it's chilly? I'll beat you up, I'm telling you. I have a whole string of uncensored words on my tongue. To begin with, we barely made it here because there was a blizzard today and the driver was afraid that we wouldn't be able to get here. And not far from us, in Yamal, there are polar bears wandering around. And yes, my ear has nearly frozen to the telephone. I'll have to say goodbye. I was talking to my colleague Natalia Gumenyuk. She's in Crimea right now, in Yalta, by the sea, and she's complaining that they're cold. It seems she can't quite imagine where we are. To her, Labetnangi is a place on the map. There are more than 5,000 kilometers between her and us. That's generally her whole perception of our region. So she's saying that they're cold over there.
The lawyer and the person who delivers the packages categorically refuses to speak on camera. However, Natalia says that having someone here who can easily visit Oleg is a big deal.
У вас разрешение есть?
Ну, сейчас будем просить, да.
Я не знаю, как вас там подвезти-то лучше. Есть там дорога, нету там дороги, прочистили.
We have come to the prison colony to see what it looks like for ourselves. Here it is, the White Bear Colony. We were not allowed to film this prison colony, just like the one in Kopeisk, where Kolchenko was detained. But we can see a few buildings through the fence. Oleg Sentsov is in one of them.
I haven't managed to get a meeting with Oleg. I can't get long meetings because I'm not a close relative. I can only get brief meetings, but Oleg traded this opportunity for a phone call with me. To be frank, Oleg refuses the meetings himself. And it is slightly scary when someone is behind bars, and distance does not matter, because even though you are there, you're still very far away. Hundreds of meters separate us. But it's the same as if I were in Kyiv, or Berlin, or anywhere else. It doesn't matter. I can't communicate with him, I can't see him, or even send a greeting to him via someone else. Someone is shouting from the tower. Let's get away from here.
Не знаю.
Oleg does not work in the prison colony. There are a lack of jobs.
Дефицит рабочих мест.
I often try to imagine how he feels, what he's thinking about, to put myself in his shoes. I think I would have broken. I could not live in this hell for 4 years. And I'm a northerner. So for a southerner, this probably is hell. Yes, it's really interesting what kind of music he listens to in there. He definitely doesn't listen to chanson, but as far as I know, chanson is not popular in prisons. He watches television, Russian television. I imagine that would make him gag. But you can't escape it. You are forced to watch it because everyone else does. He complains that he doesn't get much time to himself. It's all really sad. Oleg is an introvert. And of course, it's an enclosed space and there's a bunch of people around you who you didn't choose to be with, but you are forced to put up with them. I think that this must be psychologically very difficult. Here, this is the yellow building. Let's try to walk around it. Maybe Oleg is in the window somewhere. There it is. It's there. How can I get him out of there, huh? It seems so simple. Just take his hand and leave.
We've brought a stack of letters from Kyiv. Among them are letters from school children in the Odessa region.
They also printed postcards with Oleg Sentsov's quotes. This phrase, "Just know this nail will not bend," he wrote in his letter dedicated to all Ukrainians. It's a beautiful design. They've done well. Always remember that you're not alone here. We're waiting at home, writes Maria. Unfortunately, I'm not sure this postcard will reach him. It's written in Ukrainian. We leave tomorrow. In Kyiv, it's springtime already. In Crimea, everything is blooming now. But Oleg will remain here. And we don't know for how long. The thought of it is tormenting me, of course. You feel like a tourist. but someone stays here indefinitely.
But he doesn't want to meet. He doesn't want. He says that it wouldn't be joyful for anyone, nor for you, not for me. It will be more difficult. Even in Rostov, we wanted to come with the children. Rostov isn't so far away. He said, there is no need. I saw people who saw children. And what happened to them later? He always wrote and said, Mom, understand that if we see each other, it won't be easier for anyone. I would have wanted to, of course.
Oleg is kept in really cold conditions. Chirniy was kept in Magadan. It's not paradise there either. These endless transfers, it's torture. Did they really have to drag Sentsov from Yakutia across the whole Russia to Yamal? Why did they do that?
Why do you think?
It's a torture method. They want to break Oleg, shut him away. Because I think he's now the most dangerous person to the government. And maybe not just the Russian government. Excuse me.
There is this wonderful quote which Solzhenitsyn wrote in his book, One Day in Life of Ivan Denisovich. It goes, do not believe them, do not fear them, do not ask anything of them. If you follow this rule, you will survive then.
Съемка в колонии номер 6 в комнате для приема пищи отряда номер 4 президента членом ОНК Чирнова Николая Алексеевича в присутствии членов ОНК Щур Татьяны Михайловны и члена ОНК Фроловой Ольги Сергеевны 16 марта 2016 года. Окончание съемки в 11:06 с согласием осужденного Колченко Александра Александровича. Вы подтверждаете свое согласие?
Да, конечно.
Что-то еще хотите сказать?
Нет.
Все равно?
Да.